Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to the official, it is my favourite video to film of all time. I get so excited when I get to sit down and talk about this kind of stuff with you, and it is the top 10 autumn winter fashion trends of 2025. I almost said 2026 then. I am in wedding planning brain mode, and every single time I go to say 2025, 26 nearly comes out of my mouth. But we're not talking about that today. We are talking about the fashion trends, and it's the best time of year for dressing. Autumn, winter, it is honestly just every time I start to see the autumn and winter pieces coming into the wardrobe. Don't get me wrong, I don't like to rush through the seasons, but I do really love to start planning like autumn outfits and what bits I want to add to the wardrobe, and I really do love dressing for the time of year. I love the summer weather, but there's something about dressing for the autumn, it just warms my soul. So I'm not going to babble too much, I'm going to jump straight into this video. You know the drill. Let's go through the top 10 autumn winter fashion trends of 2025. Starting off with number 1, and I'm not too sure what to call this one. I'm going to call it chaotic layering. I want you to envision that really kind of eccentric art teacher from school. We all had one, you know, the one that throws on a shirt with a jumper and the patterns are clashing and they somehow just seem to look really cool and like they meant to do it, but it's almost like a little bit frazzled and a little bit undone. That is like one of the top trends for this year, and I was kind of expecting this. This is basically what we see a lot in fashion. We always have a backlash. You know what they say, what goes up must come down. And what we've been seeing a lot of over the last couple of years is people really leaning into the quiet luxury. Everything's been very minimal, very clean lines, and you know, very neutral, very safe. And now we're seeing the backlash. Now everyone is craving that just undone messiness, that kind of a bit more fun and maybe a bit more free. And I knew this would come. We started to see it in the summer when we saw a lot more kind of boho styles coming back, and it definitely kind of leans into the slight more boho kind of vibe, but it's just very, very undone. And I think the autumn winter is a perfect time for this trend because it is a time for layering. So chaotic layering with the mismatch of patterns and colours, it's the perfect time to try because you've probably got all of the pieces in your wardrobe anyway. You just throw them on and we don't have to think about it. I feel like it's kind of giving Andy before her makeover in The Devil Wears Prada. So I do kind of like this. I don't know if it's my comfort zone of dressing. I do love layering. I love layering jumpers over shirts and things like that. But I don't know. I don't know whether I will have a play around with this trend in the autumn winter, but I know a lot of you are going to really, really love that one. Okay, next up, and it is faux fur. Now I know we have seen a lot of talk about faux fur over the last couple of years. We've seen the whole kind of mob wife trend come around, and we saw it again last year, and it's not going anywhere, but it is just getting bigger and more diverse in what we're seeing with the faux fur. Now I know faux fur, it's kind of a little bit of a divisive one. It's a little bit controversial. I know a lot of people would rather kind of lean into more of like the vintage real furs because of the sustainability around a faux fur, and I know some people obviously would rather go for the faux fur. But what we are going to see is a lot of it regardless this year. So we're not just talking about the big long faux fur mob wife jackets. We are seeing faux fur shoes, faux fur ballet flats, faux fur belts, faux fur skirts. We are seeing it everywhere. And I will admit, I don't mind a faux fur jacket. I had one last year and I did get a lot of wear out of it because it was actually really warm. Whether I'll go for a faux fur shoe in the UK autumn winter, not sure how much use they would get. They're pretty to look at and I can appreciate the vibe. I don't think they're going to be the most practical where we live, but each to their own. If we get the one dry day in winter, then you might want to rock a pair of faux fur boots. But each to their own with that one. Okay, next trend, and this is brown is the new black. Now, this won't surprise anyone. I feel like we've talked about this colour excessively for the last kind of year or two, but it's really not going anywhere. Now, I know the colour brown for the winter is not very groundbreaking, but what we are actually seeing is brown replacing the go-to black in many scenarios. People are now talking about the LBD, or the little black dress, now being the little brown dress, and everyone is leaning much more towards these brown shades. I think because brown does feel more versatile. You can have a rich warm brown if you are a certain skin tone, and if you pull off a cooler brown better, there are options as well. Particularly as we go into the winter, we're going to see this really cool tone, dark, almost like a bitter chocolate colour that looks so close to black, but it's not. It's definitely brown. And you'll have probably noticed this in stores. If you go on any high street website right now and you filter your search bar to brown, I can almost guarantee there'll be more brown options than black right now, because so many more people are leaning into brown. So, as I said, brown is the new black. Next up, and we are seeing a huge trend for the knee length skirt, particularly the pencil skirt. Now, for me personally, I have never been a fan of a knee length skirt. I always kind of feel like they're neither here nor there. I don't particularly find them flattering on all body types. I don't find them particularly flattering on me. I don't feel my best wearing that kind of knee length skirt. However, they are definitely everywhere, and actually there is a theory that goes around the fashion community that the length of skirts that are trending fall and rise with the stock market. I don't know how true that is and what that represents, because last year it was all about the maxi skirt and now it's the knee length skirt. I don't know, I'm not gonna speculate on that, but all I'll say is I'm more of a maxi skirt girl than a knee length, but we're definitely going to be seeing a lot more of them. They're not just being worn for the office, they're also being styled up for the evening, and we're seeing them paired with sort of little cami tops, satin numbers. We're also seeing a lot of structure with them. So what we're seeing a lot of is midi skirt cords, and then the top half will be a really beautiful tailored blazer, so that it's not too kind of frumpy looking, if that makes sense. So we are seeing a lot of structure and tailoring around the cords and the outfits all together. But yeah, knee length skirts are going to be the one. And I think we're going to see a lot of the other trends coming in to the knee length skirts. So expect to see the faux fur knee length skirts, expect to see a lot of brown and a lot of the other trends coming into play that I have not yet mentioned. And another trend, let's talk handbags. Okay, we've talked about some clothes, let's move on to handbags. What are we going to be seeing a lot of? We're going to be seeing a lot of soft, slouchy bags, and we started to see this towards the end of the winter last year, but they are having their full moment this year. And again, I do feel like this is a step away from the quiet luxury of the kind of structured, very perfect bags that we've been seeing, and this just more undone, casual, relaxed vibe. So we're seeing a lot of kind of slouchy kind of clutch bags held under the arm, and you'll remember a few years ago we kind of had this trend and then it reverted back to the more structured bags. For me personally, I love a slouchy tote bag. I love that kind of look for an outfit. I don't so much love a slouchy like clutch bag. I kind of feel like it looks like you're carrying around a bit of a weird wilted croissant with you. I don't know. I would rather, if I'm going to hold a bag, I'd like it to have structure, but I do like a slouchy tote bag. I do have a couple on my kind of radar for the autumn winter, but yeah, expect to see a lot of these kind of bags floating around now. My one piece of advice for this trend is, if you are going to look for a really good soft bag, maybe shop vintage first. Have a look at some vintage outlets, because the best kind of bags are that, for this trend particularly, are those that look a little bit worn in, a little bit loved. So yeah, try to shop vintage with this one, because I actually think you'll find maybe better than if you buy a brand new box fresh Slouchy bag. Next up, and that is animal print. Now, I remember sitting here last year and having that exact conversation, and if there's one print that has definitely dominated over the years, it's leopard print. And to even sit here and say that leopard print is on trend seems a bit silly, because it kind of never really goes anywhere. It's always there. It almost feels like perhaps it's a staple in your wardrobe, but there are definitely peaks with when it's more popular, the autumn winter being one of them. But with the whole animal print trend now, we are seeing a huge rise in other prints, particularly cow print. Cow print, and especially with the faux fur element, is going to be huge this autumn winter. And also we're seeing a lot of Dalmatian print. So Cruella de Vil fans, this year is your season. If you've dreamed of having a Cruella de Vil wardrobe, this might be your season. But yeah, we are definitely leaning into prints outside of just the leopard print realm now. I know for a lot of people, animal print is like a statement for them. Someone might love their leopard print jacket, or their leopard print bag, or cow print maxi length faux fur coat. For me, I like to make a little kind of subtle nod to that trend. I don't mind the odd accessory, maybe I don't know, a pair of shoes or a little bag, or even just a nice hair grip, you know. I personally feel that's my comfort level with that trend, so it is a fun one to play with. And because it's so easy to incorporate in a neutral wardrobe, it's one that everyone can kind of have a go with, and you can either go all in, or you can do what I do and just dip your toe with this one. Okay, let's talk coats, because if there's one thing I know us Brits love doing in the autumn winter, it's upgrading our coats wardrobe. Because let's be honest, with the amount of times we have to wear jackets in this country, the coat is the outfit. It is. So we like having a new coat in our wardrobe, I think. And yeah, this year what we're going to see is I'm going to combine these two trends, because again, we saw a lot of this last year. So first up is the Maxi coat, and we are talking like almost floor skimming Maxi, where, as I said, the coat is the outfit. The coat is the ball gown of the winter. So Maxi, but also we're seeing a lot of the capes and the drapes kind of silhouettes again. So we're seeing a lot of the coats with the built-in scarves, the built-in capes. I've been seeing a lot of trench jackets with like a cape style element up top, and it doesn't even have to be a maxi coat. I'm talking cropped trench coats, cropped bomber jackets, cropped the cropped barn jackets I've seen with the cape style element. Look out for it, because I've definitely been noticing a lot of brands and designers trying to incorporate a little bit of a cape moment with their coats and jackets. And when it's not a cape, it's a drape. So lots of material draped around your shoulders, and I'm kind of here for it. I feel like there's a little bit of a luxe vibe when it comes to that sort of thing. So I'm definitely here for the capes and the drapes. Okay, shall we talk shoes? Because I've mentioned a bag, I've mentioned outerwear, I've not mentioned shoes. And we're going to see a big resurgence in the school shoe. Now, you know my fashion videos by now, guys. I always have to throw in a fashion kind of element that is not my cup of tea. And I will say, I don't know how much this one is my cup of tea, but across the catwalks we've been seeing a lot of the kind of the old-fashioned school shoes, the brogues, the loafers, the kind of shiny, like, do you know what I mean? I'm thinking old school Clark's shoes. My UK viewers will know what I mean. And we've been seeing a lot more of the catwalks leaning into these kind of shoes as opposed to the ballet flat. Now, don't get me wrong, ballet flats are not going anywhere, so you don't need to worry if you invested there, but we're definitely seeing almost like a little bit more of a boyish alternative to the ballet flats. And again, this was something that, as I said, what goes up must come down. We have seen a real lean into the ballet flat, and it's almost like the fashion industry exhausts something so much that we have to go back to the opposite thing and then it all comes round again, and that is literally what we're seeing with the shoes. We have seen all sorts of ballet flats over the last 12 months, down to mesh ballet flats, sequin ballet flats, and now what does the fashion industry do? It says, enough of those, we want to go back to boyish kind of shoes. I know I don't believe in clothes having a gender, but you know what I mean. If we have a kind of a more of a lace-up brogue and then a ballet flat, that's what we're seeing in the fashion world. But as I said, ballet flats are definitely not going anywhere though, but we're just starting to see the scales kind of balance out a little bit now. Another style of shoe that we're going to be seeing a lot in the autumn winter, and this kind of leans into my first couple of trends that I mentioned earlier, and it is the slouchy pirate boot is what I'm going to call them. If you are a Pirates of the Caribbean fan and you love their costume, then you may really love this trend. We are seeing these kind of calf length, slouchy, oversized, wrinkled up boots, and don't get me wrong, I'm much more of a riding boot style kind of gal. I like my sleek and polished knee-high boot in the autumn winter. Again, this is like a little bit of a backlash to that. It's slouchy, it's undone, it's casual, it's more of a boho kind of vibe. And to me, I feel like these shoes are kind of, they're almost part costume, part cool, depending how you pull them off. But across the catwalks, we were seeing them styled multiple ways. Like, if I was to read about this trend on paper, I would feel a bit costumey, but we were seeing them styled really romantically. We were seeing them styled really cool. We were seeing them styled with suits, literally with blazers, trousers. So I do think this is going to be a big one that we see across high streets. How much it's going to get picked up on and favoured as opposed to maybe a more sleek riding boot, I don't know, but I know we're going to be seeing a lot of them. And the final trend I'm going to talk about is 80s power dressing. Now, we have been seeing this again over the last couple of years, but it's just going bigger and better. Expect to see structured silhouettes. We're particularly talking about blazers, jackets and outerwear with this one. Big shoulder pads, cinched in waists. Honestly, just power dressing. That's the only way I can accurately describe this trend, and definitely more of a nod to the 80s. But obviously with this kind of slouchy, undone vibe, we're going to be seeing some interesting pairings. So I'm expecting to see kind of lacy, romantic, very kind of loose boho style dresses, but then with a big 80s like power dressing blazer popped over the top just for some juxtaposition, which I really love that kind of dressing. I think it makes for a really interesting outfit. So if you are a fan of an oversized blazer, as am I, then expect to see the shoulder pads are getting bigger, the waists are getting cinched, and we're not just talking about big boxy blazers for winter 2025. And that brings me to the end of this video, guys. Let me know if you'd like a part 2 and you want me to go into some of the more micro trends that we're going to be seeing, because I love filming these videos. So yeah, let me know if you'd like to see part 2. But I am going to leave this video here, guys. Let me know what trends you are looking forward to wearing, to trying. Let me know if you're already there. You've already got your wardrobe full and you know what you're going to be dressing like this year. But anyway, I'm going to end this video here. So as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.